Welcome to our first Lunch with the Librarian. I'm Miss Jen, I'm the librarian, and today for lunch we're going to have some stuffed baked potatoes. So hopefully you've got the ingredients that you'll need just laying around your kitchen already. This is an easy way to make a filling lunch for a bunch of people if you need to. We're going to fill them two different ways, one with chili, one with broccoli, and both will have a from scratch cheese sauce that I'll show you guys how to make today. But first come the baked potatoes. These are the foundation for what we're doing today. These are russet potatoes that we're gonna bake in the microwave. So you want a russet potato. These are good baking potatoes, the ones that are little and round or whatever. They're better for boiling, their texture is waxier. The russet potatoes, when you bake them, get fluffier and kind of creamier on the inside. So these are the kind of potatoes that we are going to use today for our baked potatoes. The first thing that you're going to want to do though is you're going to wash your potato off. Potatoes grow just underground in the dirt and they don't get washed off before you see them at the grocery store. So while you wash your hands before you make lunch today, wash off the potatoes as well. You don't have to worry about digging out, these are called eyes. You don't have to worry about digging these out. It's not gonna matter. So I'll be right back and I will have a cleanly washed, clean hands and a clean baked potato. All right, so I washed off the potatoes and I rub them with a little bit of vegetable oil, just regular, nothing fancy, just regular canola oil or vegetable oil that you have at your house. I'm making two potatoes since I'm going to do two different kind of toppings for them. Notice that they're not like perfectly like scrubbed or whatever, but the dirt that was on here is not on here anymore. I scrubbed them both, I rubbed them both with just regular vegetable oil. Let me wipe that off with my hands because the next thing I'm gonna do could be real dangerous if you're klutz like me and you have slippery hands. The thing that you wanna do if you're gonna microwave a potato is to poke holes in it with a fork or a knife. Not a ton, just enough of like maybe 2 or 3 pokes of your fork or of your knife on each side of the potato so that as it cooks, steam can escape from the inside and it lets the interior of the potato cook. You don't want to like have a half cooked, half raw potato. So I'm just like legit going Norman Bates on my potato and stabbing it a few times on each side. Stab it and stab it on the other side. I'm just using a regular old butter knife to do that. By the way, if you don't know where I am in the kitchen at the library. We have one of those. Who knew? So now I've got my potatoes, my stabbed oily potatoes, and I'm going to pop these in the microwave for 5 minutes. And so it should go without saying that the potatoes should be on a plate when you put them into the microwave. So I'm using paper plates today just kind of for easier cleanup, but any microwave safe plate works. By the way, this also works for sweet potatoes. If you don't have regular like potatoes, like the russet potatoes at home, but you do have sweet potatoes, this technique also works for sweet potatoes. And like honestly, like I love doing that for breakfast, is microwaving a sweet potato in the morning and doing like butter and brown sugar and pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon or something in the morning. It's like having pie for breakfast, which is like, who doesn't love pie for breakfast? You heard the microwave go off. It's been 5 minutes. I am going to grab my tongs and turn, so it's going to be hot, but I'm going to turn the potato over, just like that. And then I'm going to do my other one. I'm not going to take it out because you get the picture. I'm just flipping it over. I'm using tongs because these are super hot. They're not cooked all the way yet, but they're really hot. So I'm putting that back in the microwave. If you're just cooking for you today and you're making your own lunch and you've only got one potato, another 3 minutes in the microwave is all you need. If you are doing two potatoes, or if you have a larger microwave than we have here at the library, and you're making 3 potatoes, then you want to put them in for another 5 minutes so that there's enough time for both of the potatoes to cook completely. So in 5 minutes I'll be back and I'll show you what that looks like when your potato is fully cooked. Alright, let's see if the potatoes are done. So I'm going to use my tongs to grab it out of the microwave, and the way to know if a potato is cooked all the way through is if you can take a butter knife or a metal fork and pierce all the way through to the center easily. It still feels a little bit solid in the middle. So I am going to flip these over again, and actually let me test my other potato. Yeah, it's a little hard in the middle. So I'm going to pop it in for 1 minute. And the cooking time is going to depend upon how big your potatoes are. The larger your potatoes, obviously, the longer they're going to take for them to cook all the way through. But after it's been, in the case of the making 2 potatoes right now, if you've had it on for 5 minutes on each side, you'll continue cooking in 1 minute increments until your potato is cooked all the way through. And all right, so the buzzer went off. I grabbed my potatoes. I stuck a fork in. Very, very easily slides. You know they're cooked all the way through. So we're going to set these aside. They are crazy hot right now, and we want them to cool down a little bit while we are making the sauce that we're going to put on our potatoes. Indeed, the potatoes are cooked so thoroughly, the one just broke in half right now. That's fine, it still tastes the same. All right, our potatoes are finished. Now it's time to make the cheese sauce that we're going to serve on top of the potatoes with the filling of our choice. So, sorry, I forgot the ingredients that were in the fridge, keeping cold. You could just use like Cheese Whiz or Velveeta and melt that in the microwave, and that'll work, but those Cheese Whiz and Velveeta they're not really cheese. They can't be called that because there's no milk in them. And for that reason, I don't prefer to use it. We'll be making our own cheese sauce from scratch. And obviously, you can use this cheese sauce on whatever you like cheese sauce on. You can dip chips into it. You can make the cheese sauce and add some Rotel tomatoes and make like a queso or like chorizo or taco seasoned ground beef. You could put this on tacos. You could make nachos with it. We're gonna put it on our baked potatoes. So the first thing I have is a shallow dish that has a side, this is a pie plate. A flat regular plate won't work because as the cheese melts, it'll just run off. So you want something that has a little bit of, that has a side to it. The next thing you need is cheese. I am using pre-shredded cheddar cheese that I just got at the grocery store. If you, shredded cheese is fine. I prefer usually to shred my own cheese, to like buy the block of cheese and to shred my own. If you're a super picky person about what you eat, notice on the ingredients list for cheese, the only ingredient should be cheese, and this is not. There's other stuff in here like coloring and salt and dextrose, which is sugar. Why is that there? But there's other things in shredded cheese that are not just cheese, and if you buy the block and shred it yourself, you won't have that problem. But today we want a quick lunch, and so that's what we're doing. So I open up my bag of cheese. And cut my cheese open. Har har. Miss Jen cut the cheese. I didn't cut the cheese, I cut the cheese bag. Very, very different. Y'all, right now my mama is watching this and she's gonna be super happy that I was making cut the cheese jokes on the internet. Sorry, Mom. So, I dumped some cheese out onto my pie plate. It's just kind of enough to cover the bottom of the cheese of the pie plate. Don't worry about measuring, just kind of, you don't have to like push it down or anything, just kind of cover the bottom of whatever pan you're using, and depending on how much cheese sauce you are using. Next thing you want is milk, just regular milk. You know, it occurs to me, if you are lactose intolerant or vegan, if you're using non-dairy cheese, I have no idea how well this works. This is just regular milk and cheese from the store. I'm using whole milk today. It's creamier. Some people think it tastes better. I don't drink milk because I'm lactose intolerant. So I just decided to go for this, and I'm opening up my milk if I can get, there we go. And I'm just gonna pour in enough milk so that it's kind of like cereal, not a ton. Like that. You can see the milk, but you can also see the amount of cheese that's happening in there. The next thing that I want to do is I'm gonna make something called a slurry of cornstarch and milk. And I'm just gonna do this in a measuring cup. So the purpose of a cornstarch slurry is to make the cheese sauce thick and kind of creamy textured. I brought my cornstarch from home. This is what it looks like. It's just a white powder, kind of like flour, but a little bit finer in texture. Cornstarch is made from corn, obviously. And you can find it in the aisle of the grocery store. If you don't have any in your house, you find cornstarch in the aisle of the grocery store, where all the baking stuff is, like where cake mix and baking soda and chocolate chips and stuff are. That is where the cornstarch is. So I'm going to take a tablespoon, not a tablespoon, a tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm going to dip it into my cornstarch. I'm going to put it in the little cup. And then to make the cornstarch work, you need to make a slurry with liquid. So I'm just using milk because we want something creamy. We don't want it watery. So I'm putting a tablespoon of milk and a tablespoon of cornstarch, and I'm just stirring them together. Trying to get all the lumps out of the cornstarch that I can. And then I'm going to pour that cornstarch mixture into my plate of milky cheese. Stir it around again. Make sure that it's all in there. Make sure that it's all even because we're about to put this into the microwave. Make sure that the cornstarch is dissolved and that nothing is like lumpy or bumpy in your dish. And now that you've done that, we're going to pop this guy into the microwave for 2 minutes. Regardless of how much sauce you're making, you might be using way more cheese than me if you are feeding more people than just you. Speaking of which, I can't believe I forgot to say this. You can reheat baked potatoes really well. This is a good thing if you want to make a whole bunch of baked potatoes at once and just leave them, like wrap them in wax paper or something and put them in the fridge. You can do a whole bunch of like meal prep baked potatoes at once. They'll last in your fridge for about 4 days. The same thing with the if you're making a lot of cheese sauce and you're going to use it for a couple of things over the course of a week, you can reheat that again too. All right, the cheese sauce should be done in just a minute. Oh, just a second. So I'm going to grab a spoon. I'm glad this dish has a lid on it. The cheese is not all the way melted yet, and that's okay. But it is more melted than it was, so it makes stirring it around a lot easier. Now is a really good time to add seasoning to your cheese sauce if you want to. I am going to use salt and pepper, just because that's what I have, and it's a pretty basic basic seasoning to use. But if you like spicy food, if you want your cheese sauce to be like a spicy queso, you could use cayenne pepper, or if you've got those like the peppers like you get at from pizza, you can shake those in there. You can kind of do whatever seasoning you want in here. So I'm going to stir that together and pop it back in the microwave for a minute. And let that rock just a little bit more. So this is the cheese sauce. It is kind of the consistency, like you can see kind of how creamy it is. If I wanted this thicker, I could just add more cheese and microwave, like depending on how much I added, I could return it to the microwave and it'll thicken up a little bit. If my cheese sauce is too thick, I can add more milk, just a little bit, like a little spoonful at a time, and stir that in until it loosens up, until it's just the consistency that I want. This is great for me. So now that I've got cheese sauce that I made from scratch using actual cheese and actual milk and seasonings and cornstarch, I have a couple of baked potatoes as well. Let me go grab one more plate. I can return to the baked potatoes that I made earlier. So I said I was going to show you guys 2 different preparations for kind of loaded baked potatoes. The first one, my potatoes have been cooling this whole time. Let me show you kind of more of the countertop that I'm working on. So I've got my whole baked potato over here. There it is. I just cut it long ways. I like to cut it up a little bit in the middle. Kind of makes it easier to eat. If you are a person who is feeding little brothers or sisters or cousins or whoever, you might want to cut the baked potato into chunks for them so that they don't have to mess with a knife and fork. And so I'm doing one that way as well. Just cutting it into big old pieces. And it's messy looking, and that's okay. So one way people eat their baked potatoes that is not just like a bunch of butter and salt and pepper is they put broccoli and cheese sauce. So I microwaved some broccoli, and I know this looks weird that I did it in a mug, but I just had like a big old bag of frozen broccoli in my freezer. And I just microwaved it according to the directions on the package of broccoli. You might choose, your broccoli might be fresh at home. Definitely use that if you can. Steaming broccoli is really, really easy. You just make sure that it's in like little bite-sized pieces like this, splash some water over it, and microwave it for about 4 minutes, and it'll be perfect. And so I've got my broccoli on my potato. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? This is a better idea. I've got my potato, and I'm going to put some cheese sauce over the potato like that. I'm using my hands, but that's okay because I washed them, and most good professional cooks use their hands a lot to cook anyway. And there is your broccoli cheese baked potato. Just like you can get it like Wendy's. The other, hang on a second, I got some cheese on the countertop. One of my favorite ways to load up a baked potato is if I'm feeling, if I'm really hungry and I want something a little bit more hearty. Broccoli cheese is a great vegetarian option. I like to put chili or leftover sloppy joe on my baked potato. I love leftover sloppy joe on a sweet potato. That is the bone. Sorry, I need to grab another spoon. And obviously, again, if you are a vegetarian, you can certainly use the vegetarian chili of your choice. Whatever you like, if it's turkey chili, if it is beef chili, if it is vegetarian chili, it doesn't matter. It's all good and it's all delicious. It's a great way to use up leftovers. You can stretch leftover chili into a lot of meals by topping a baked potato with it. And then put that cheese sauce on top of your baked potato. And it looks kind of like a mess on a plate, but it is super delicious. If I was having a chili cheese baked potato, I would definitely put a whole bunch of hot sauce on my potato. You could also do sour cream. You could do bacon bits. You could, you could chop some onion and throw that on here. Kind of whatever you have laying around your house that sounds like it would be delicious together, you can throw on top of your baked potato. And that is how you can make from scratch loaded baked potatoes for lunch for yourself, for a bunch of people, for leftovers for tomorrow or the next day. And it's healthy, actual food that you can prepare easily yourself. And that's what we're going to be doing every week on Lunch with the Librarian. So dig in and enjoy, and I'll see you next week.